Hello and welcome to the It's All Good show. Look who's here for a chat. My name is Denise Bellel, and I'm a serenity expert and positive intelligence specialist. Let me just tell you a little bit about Consuela, sorry, mispronunciation here. So she's a speaker, leadership of strength coach. So I'm very interested about that strength coach. And it's you do a test and you evaluate your strength, and then she does a big analysis about that. So that's very exciting. And today is topic is Squirrel: How to Defeat Chinese Syndrome Object. I'm so guilty of that. I'm telling you right off the bat, that's a talk that I'm going to have all my ears on. And what she said is that we will explore how idea chaser can save money and time while achieving their goal and becoming impact maker. Who wouldn't want to be an impact maker, make an impact in the world and influencing the people around you? So Consuela Munoz, M-U-N-O-Z, so I think it's Munoz, is a Gallup Certified Strengths Coach focusing on leadership and engagement. She's a trainer, speaker, author, and founder of C School, the CEO Way and Impact Maker Playground. Following a 20 years career as a private held multinational company employing 13,000 with 10 billion in sale, Munoz decided to start her coaching business and founded Own Your Confidence. Consuela believes that everyone should be excited by the work they are doing, and and I should learn to read, and that celebrating and engaging your strength is how you own your confidence. So let's see if we can hear Consuela. Consuela, you're in the dark, but can we hear you?
Yes, I'm hoping that you guys can hear me. Sorry, I'm in the
Yes.
dark.
Yes, I can hear you. Hey, we'll do it as it is. So no makeup, no hair. It's all good.
I'm so beyond gorgeous right now. You guys will only have to imagine
You don't know
how
what you're
amazing I look
missing.
today.
So technology is as it is. Sometimes we just have to do with what we have, and I might just turn that into an audio when I put it into YouTube. So this way, people will just be listening and looking at our pictures of the plaquette that I've done earlier. So, Consuela, tell me first. Tell me how you pronounce your last name.
All right, so it is Munoz,
Munoz.
because it is the tilde there on the N.
Yeah.
It's an enye, right? It's an
Anyway.
enye. And the way to remember is if you think about the moon in,
Yeah.
the actual moon, and then yos. Because when the
Munoz.
N has that squiggly mark, it's like an NY.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Wonderful.
Munoz.
It's beautiful.
Thank you.
And I remember when we had our little chat, we were talking about the Munoz Lake, right?
Yes, we call it Lake
Lake
Munoz,
Munoz.
y'all. So we're on a very low area. And so when we get a lot of rain, there's like in the backyard, like at the start of where we have a field, fills up with water enough that we have every duck and Canadian goose and egrets and herrings all like flock to this little, pile of
Backyard.
water. And so we just call it Lake Munoz. In
That's
fact, at
awesome.
one point, during the shutdown, we had so much water back there that my youngest made a impromptu boat out of a kiddie pool and pool noodles, and he was out there floating along on Lake Munoz.
That's pretty fun. You know how to entertain yourself in times of boredom, right?
Exactly. Yep.
And I love your topic today that we're gonna explore, which is about the shiny syndrome object or the squirrel. It's like, oh, that's so good. Oh, I like that. Oh, let's do this. Oh, I have to do this. So tell me, how did you get started into working with that type of work?
Yeah, and shiny object syndrome, right? So 9 out of 10 small business owners say that they have suffered from shiny object syndrome at least once in their business
Only
journey.
once.
And I have to say, like, I think number 10 was fibbing. I don't know about you guys, but I think 10 was probably not being all the way honest, right?
Yeah.
And so right? Because it is something that gets to all of us. As far as like why is it so important to me? I think I mean another number I can throw at you is 90% of small businesses succeed when they get good at having those good managerial decisions, so making good decisions. And shiny object syndrome can really get in the way of that, right? It can cause us to make some crazy ideas sometimes that aren't the best for us. And
Yes.
for me, um, I have what I would say is a severe case of shiny object syndrome. So, we talked about strengths a little bit in the opening, and I have futuristic at number 3, which is my idea generating machine. Most entrepreneurs are that, like they are idea generating machines. But then I have positivity, which tells me that all my ideas are brilliant and they're all going to work perfectly. And then I have activator, which is like, okay, here's the plan, let's go. Like I just jump into everything. But then you add into that at the bottom of my strengths are discipline, consistency, and focus. And so that combination has really led me into a path of strong shiny object syndrome.
Wow. Yes. Me three.
Yeah.
Me too. Yeah,
Well,
I found like I'm always so excited myself to always want to learn new things, always want to start a new project, always, jumping into this and jumping into that. And that caused that sometime it happens that I have so much on my plate that I don't complete what I'm supposed to be doing, right? Because I'm just like jumping from one thing to the other. I'm getting much better at it, I got to admit. But that's something, that it has affected me in the past, because you start one thing and then you say, oh, that thing doesn't work, and then you start something else, but then I never took the time to actually complete what I started. So how do you know it doesn't work, right? And
right,
that's what I tell my
exactly.
clients too,
And
right?
so that's kind of where I was, right? Like I'm spending oodles of money, all kinds of time on things that don't necessarily work with me.
Hmm.
And realizing that I'm not getting, at the same time, not getting those results that I wanted. So this is like that, like, oh my goodness, is
So I
shiny object syndrome distracting me from getting my goals? And I was at a live event, live conference, and they had like an annual goal setting workshop, and I signed up for it with like my usual lack of enthusiasm, right? Like goal setting is not high on my list of strengths. It's not the thing that drives me. It's nowhere near as exciting as just jumping into things.
Yeah.
But at that point, I was like, hey, in the same conference, I realized that like many other people in the room, like we had shiny object syndrome, but I felt like, for me, this is the thing that's keeping me from getting the success I want. This is the thing that's really holding me back from all the things that I want to achieve. And so I went into the goal setting session with like, all right, I'm going to set an annual goal. And unlike in the past where I would set it and forget it,
Hmm.
I'm going to do something different. And so I set that goal, and I wanted to make sure when I set the goal that it was strong enough that it like triggered an emotional response from me when I
Hmm.
seen that goal, so that it would be strong enough for me to stick with that goal for the whole year versus, my typical before that, which was like, oh, every new thing or every, new thing to chase was just a chance to pivot and change my goal altogether. And so
Yeah.
I needed that emotional trigger, if you will, like to be connected to it to make it strong enough.
Nice, nice. And I feel the same of what you just said, to reflect like when we, there's been the law of attraction and this and that. People are talking about, ask and you shall receive. But on top of that, like, yes, you have to set your mind with your goals, you have to see your goals, but once you put that emotion in there, once you put that feeling, as if you write, let's say this year I want to make $100,000, for example. Some people might want to do that, and then but then you actually feel the feeling of receiving that money and how you're going to receive it, and seeing the effect, the changes it might have in your life, and how is your life's going to be different, and how are you going to live differently. what pleasure it's going to give you for, you know, being able to take maybe a vacation and bring your family on a vacation and who knows what. But when you experience all that as you set your goals, it's totally different than write on a piece of paper 100K, right?
Yeah, and for me, and so I'm a strengths coach, and so just, full disclosure, I'm a total strengths nerd, like all strengths. And one of the things I'm always telling people is like, all right, let's take a step back and figure out, we want this result. How do I use my strengths the way I'm naturally amazing to achieve that goal? And
Mm-hmm.
so when in the past I've done goal setting when it's around just like earn 100,000 or whatever it is,
Mm-hmm.
that's not enough of an emotional trigger for me.
Yeah.
Like I drive from other things. I drive from influencing. So for me, I'm like, okay, how can I make this be about influencing in the goal? So I really had that stronger connection. So that's one of the things that I needed to do. And for me, like I came up with this like simple process, because for me it needs to be simple or I'm going to get, if it's too much details, too much going on, I'm going to be like, oh, forget it. I'm not I'm not going to do that, right? And so I came up with this simple process that's helped me stay focused based on my strengths, but so it, because it takes my strengths into account as
Mm-hmm.
part of the process, right? And so that really has made all the difference for me. Simple process of following, and I'm able to stay focused. And really, it's made all the difference in how close I am to achieving my goal. This,
Mm.
how it's made it so that I can easily say no to those things that I shouldn't be saying yes to, not to mention the thousands of dollars it saved me in things that I don't sign up for. For
Yeah.
example, I was going through something I'm doing is I'm working on my image. And so I'm going through with this image lady,
I
and
can tell you're very
yes,
great
you
image.
guys can see the amazing difference that it's brought for me. But one of the things, the first day of her training, one of the first ideas I had was, oh my gosh, I need to get certified in this, because this can really, if I
Mm.
have this tool, it can really help my coaching business. It can really
Yeah.
help everything.
Yeah.
And it was like, I put it through, I have like an idea test and I put it through that. And I'm like, wait, I don't
Back up.
actually need to be certified. I want to be, and I still do, but I don't need that
Yeah.
in order to achieve my goal for the year. So I'm going to park it. And I have like a system I use for that, but I'm going to park it and I'm not going to do that. So that saved me thousands. Just that one idea that I didn't
Mhm.
chase saved me thousands of dollars.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It makes a big difference, and once we're able to recognize these behaviors, that can make a big impact on our life, right? So
Huge.
how can people be able to recognize when they are in a shiny object syndrome? Like how do people recognize that if they never
Well,
even thought about it?
Well, I have some funny ways that you can kind of recognize whether you're in it. So I have a couple of those, but I also have a quiz that folks could take to want to see like how strong is your case of shiny object syndrome? Do you go up to severe like me, or do you just have a mild case? Like where are you on that? But some of the things, like are if your first instinct is to go out and grab the domain name, you might have SOS, an SOS, shiny object syndrome. If you are generating new business ideas in your sleep, you might have SOS.
Hmm.
If you have an allergic reaction when you hear the words consistency, focus, and discipline, you might have SOS. Ooh, exactly. My tummy gets all like, duh. And if you've changed your yearly goal every 3 months, then you might have SOS, right? But
Uh,
you can take this quiz, and it's shinyquiz.com, and you can take that, and that'll help tell you like how bad you might have it. But it's really looking at where you are. If you're not getting the goals that you are setting, if you're not achieving them, or you're not getting the results you want,
mhm.
then it might be getting in your way, as it does so many people. I mean, 20% of businesses fail in their first year, and 40% in their first 2 years, and 40% in their first 5 years. And not being able to make those good decisions is part of the
Mm-hmm.
reason we do that. So finding a system or a process that can help us make better decisions about our business, more informed and less on the impulsive and all the things we want to do. Because one of the things as small business owners, we want that freedom, right? I'm in
Yeah.
charge and I can do what I want to do, but it often can spill into sloppiness and just saying yes to everything
Mm-hmm.
and not really taking into account what are my strengths and how can I do things, and using that to make that decision.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, for sure, for sure. That makes a big difference if you're able to really take a step back and say, okay, hold it for a second and put it through a screening, right? Like you screen it through. It's like almost like a put a baton and say, okay, does it ring like I should do that or not? Or, what could have worked? But what you mentioned earlier is you talked about as a strength coach and you geek on strength. So how do strength play a role in dealing with shiny object syndrome? So how were you able to deal with your SOS, when you and using your strength to do that? So how did that work?
Well, so our strengths, especially our top 5 strengths, right? They are the most amazing thing about us. They are what makes us unique and powerful. Whether you want to call it a superpower or your magic or whatever it is, they're the reason. They're what you can do that nobody else can do. And
Mm-hmm.
most times they're so natural to you that you don't even realize that it's a strength that other people can't do at all. And so you just go about doing it and you don't think you're special and you don't think anything about it, because that's just the way you do things. And other people will look at you and be like, you did what? You how? And because it's so natural for us, you're like, oh, and so it takes a minute for us to realize that. So
Mm-hmm.
once you take this strengths assessment, you can identify them, but then it's the work after, because you can take any assessment, right? Put that on the shelf, and not deal with it. But that's where the CEO way comes in. And we want to celebrate what your strengths are, but then how are you going to engage them? How are you going to use them with purpose? And so that's what one of the things we need to do. But the other thing as far as strengths is it helps us figure out what are those distractions that
Mm-hmm.
we're going to be most tempted by. So let's say you have learner. You are probably going to want to sign up for every training you ever see. Like, oh, I
Mm-hmm.
want training, I want training. And whether you finish them or not, maybe, but what are you implementing from each of those training before you're taking that next training?
Yeah.
Maybe you have achiever and you're signing up for certification after certification till you have an entire alphabet worth of letters behind your name, right? Or maybe you have relator, like you're really strong in relationship skills. And so you sign up for a networking event after event, like your whole calendar is full of all these networking events. And that doesn't leave you time then to actually do the follow up and do
Mm-hmm.
those other things, because you're jumping from event to event. So
Yeah.
knowing what our strengths are can help us have an idea of what are the distractions that are going to get in our way, so that we
Mm-hmm.
can then be ready for them and have a plan in place to deal with them so that we don't fall into those traps.
That's interesting. Yes, because then again, it's awareness. Once you become aware of what can get in the way, you have the tool to deal with it and to be able to make the changes, or not to, like you said earlier, that course
Yeah,
on image,
I
right? Like,
know.
yeah,
I
it's in the
know.
back burner. It's there. It's. I
It's
know I could do that one day, but that's not the time right now, right?
right, exactly. I
That's
mean, one
good.
of the things I say about that, and so I wanted to give that away for your group. I have this idea test that helps you sort through when you have this new idea, this training you want to take, or you've got a new idea for a business that you think might be a
Hmm.
good idea. Kind of go through that and decide, like, okay, if this is my goal for the year, my overarching, I call it a gig, you guys. I call it your ginormous impact goal for the year. And if you're going to be working towards that, every idea you have, whether it's training, certification, a business avenue you want to chase, you put it through this idea test, and you decide whether it's going to be an action or a distraction. And one
Mm-hmm.
of the reasons I feel like having a place to park them is a good thing is because if you leave that idea, if I left that idea about the certification in my head, then eventually my head would get full of all this ideas. I call it idea clutter. And it would be so foggy that I would have trouble seeing the straight path. But
Mm-hmm.
by taking those ideas out and storing them, like, all right, I'm going to decide where these go, and then I'm going to store them. Like, this is a distraction, so it's maybe later. Now I've reduced all that clutter and that fog in my head, and oh, there's the path. It's right there. I can see it
Yeah.
clearly again. And so that's one of the most important things. And it's a simple thing. It's like, okay, so I have this idea. Let me decide where it's going to go. There isn't a lot to that, but the simplicity means that you can do it every time really easy without a lot of hoopla, right? Like, okay, wait, do I want to do this or not? Let me test it. Nope, that's not now. I had an idea for a business while I was on vacation. Perfect idea. Like, oh, this would be awesome. We need this. But then I'm like, wait a second. I don't need to do this. Let me donate that idea to someone else, right? Psh,
Mm-hmm.
pulled it right out, and it makes it so that you can stay on your path to your goal that you set for the year in a way that is so freeing, you guys, because you no longer get that confusion, those stops and starts, right? Like, because if I had decided to take that certification, what would that mean for what I was trying to do for the rest of my business? I'd have to pause, right?
But that
While
takes
I
time
figured out
away
the
from,
certification and while I got through
yeah.
this training and do that. Or maybe you're getting a new software. Maybe that's your thing.
Mm-hmm.
And now you have to pause everything else you're working on your
To
business
learn
so
that
you can get
software.
up to date on that software. So you're
Mm.
pausing. And every time you push pause, that further hinders your momentum and your ability to achieve your goal that you've set.
Mm. So I heard you say like you gave us some hints and tips in there, but I heard you say like a 5 key techniques to manage idea chasing. So how would we work with those 5 keys
So
techniques?
these are what, and I call it the spear of the tip. It helps clear that fog away, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we start with strengths. I always start with strengths. So of course we start with our strengths, but then we need that planning, having that strong goal that has an emotional trigger for you. Then evaluation of that idea. Use that idea test that idea before you make any action, before you take action. And then, now this isn't anybody's favorite word, but accountability. Yeah, I know. I know. Everybody's had that accountability experience that's not great, right? It's frustrating, it's boring, it's not working, whatever, it can drive you crazy. But then we follow it up with reward. And
Mm-hmm.
that piece of it is so important because for me, if it's not fun, it's not getting done. So
Mm-hmm.
how can I evaluate this idea and have an accountability session where I've created a reward system, so I'm not waiting till I get to the end of the year to reward myself. Now,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
obviously, the ultimate reward is that you do stick with your goal and you achieve your result, right? That's the obvious reward.
Yeah.
But, I'm kind of like, what's my reward this week? What's my reward today? Like, I need more rewards for me to stick with it. If you've ever heard of Weight Watchers, I talk about diets a lot because it's an easy thing that most adults at some point have done a diet,
I've
right?
done at some point or the
Yeah,
other.
at some point, maybe when you were younger, right?
Yeah.
So you do this diet, you follow the rules, and you get results. You don't follow the rules, you don't get the results, right? But if you've for me in my history, when that works best is when I have some accountability. I did
Mm-hmm.
Weight Watchers for a little while, and you're going to go there. Nobody else is going to see your weight but the one person, right? But everybody's going to be like, how'd you do? So
Mm.
you there's that accountability piece. But the
Yeah.
other thing is the reward system. So if you've ever done that, let's say your overall goal was 100 pounds.
Mm.
If you had to keep going and didn't get rewarded until you lost 100 pounds, dang, that
That's
could
a
be a
long
minute.
time.
That could be a minute, right? So instead, they're like, hey, You lost 5 pounds. Here's the thing
Woo!
on your keychain. And it doesn't matter if you put it on your keychain or what you do with it, but you
Yeah,
know that you earned that reward. I
yeah,
did this. And now I want to get that 10 pound. And now I want to get that 25 pound. And it keeps you on the path to get to that ultimate reward, but you
mm-hmm.
have to have something to reward yourself. So having your reward system, having an accountability system, whether it's a coach, a partner, or an entire group to help you keep on the path for your goals. Very important. Those are the things that clear up that fog and keep you moving in the right direction.
Yeah, I can see that. That makes a big difference, the reward system, because and that works with everything. Like when you want to create a new habits, when you want to, to eliminate an old habits or create goals, like tiny baby steps, and then acknowledging the reward. Like, we don't need much to make a change. I always say, 1%, if you divert, like if a plane from Los Angeles to New York go off the path 1%, they're probably going to end up in Montreal, right? Like like at 1% is not a lot, but in the end it makes a big difference. So, and the reward system kind of work in the same way. It's like you just have to make little rewards. Like you don't have to reward yourself once you make your $100,000 in a year, but hey, I'm halfway through, I'm a the way through, let's keep going, like
Or
things
I,
are
I
working.
doubled I doubled the number of
Leads or
leads
phone
this week
calls
from
or
last week, whatever
yeah.
it is. Like, you have to come up with a reward system. Now different people need a different amount of rewards.
Hmm.
I don't mind a daily reward, right?
Yeah.
but what is, you have to know that about yourself. So when you're setting your system, like, what is that system,
Hmm. And
right?
reward people is not always cake. Mind you, it's nice, but
Yeah, no, we can't talk about diets and then say the reward is cake. That's not
no, no,
like,
no.
we can't have, although I always go to chocolate. Like,
Yeah.
it's the same thing for me with shiny object syndrome. One of the things about entrepreneurs that makes them so amazing is a little bit of shiny object syndrome, right? We have that idea generating machine, and we have the gumption and the motivation and initiative, and we'll take that risk. That's what makes us amazing entrepreneurs. And
Yeah.
so we need some shiny object syndrome, in my case,
Hmm.
chocolate. But if you sit on the sofa eating chocolate bonbons all day, you're probably not going to do very well. But if I have
Hmm.
one chocolate bonbon every week, then I'm probably going to be okay still, right? So
Yeah,
it's the same
absolutely.
kind of thing with shiny object syndrome. We don't want to say no shiny object syndrome ever, but you want to be in control of it instead of it controlling you. So how do
Hmm.
you do that?
Hmm.
I mean, one of the things I work with, the folks I work with, is we have playtime. Like, all right, for this 90 minutes, we're all gonna work together and we're gonna have playtime. You can chase all the shiny things you want, and we're gonna talk about it at the end. But if you do come up with something, we're gonna put it through the idea test before we move forward. But
Hmm.
allowing yourself the ability to chase some things, to think about
Yeah.
some things, makes you in charge, right? Like,
Yeah.
we're never going to not have shiny object syndrome, but we need to be using it with purpose to when we need to advance our business. Let's say you need to do some big thing. Okay, now I can turn my SOS loose and let's come up with that new thing.
Yeah,
And
opening
that's
your
good.
creative side, like just looking at the possibilities and see
Right,
what
and so
can be
we can
done,
do
what's
that, but
possible.
we can't just let it run willy-nilly all day long, because then we're not going anywhere fast, right?
Exactly, exactly. Like for myself, I remember years ago I was working out, daily, and I had like a major goal that I want to achieve. And every time I would finish my workout, I would like just high five myself, right? As simple as that. I was like, yes, I've done one more day. Awesome. And that
Yeah,
was my reward. I was just like celebrating, little moment of celebration, and say, great job, you know?
well, I mean, think about it. It doesn't have to be, that is an amazing thing to do, right? High five yourself every
Yeah.
morning, right? High five yourself when you did something good. Pat yourself, literally, physically pat yourself on the back, right?
Give
When you
yourself
did a
a
good
hug.
job.
Great
Because
job,
Right, because that's what we need for that motivation to keep
Yeah.
us going for the next thing, and acknowledging like, "Hey," like for me, acknowledging that I did not go after that certification, the more I can do that, the more it reminds me, like, stay on the path. The daily workout, right?
Yeah.
Reminds you like, "Okay, I got this far. Let me keep going," right? I mean, what are the things? But everybody based on their strengths needs a different set of rewards, and so that's why you wanna work on that.
That's awesome. So thank you so much. We're coming to an end, and I want to know, is there any, I know there was lots of tips and tricks and jam in what you've said, but is there one last thing you'd like to share?
Mine would be it it's not fun, it's not gonna get done. How can you make staying on the path to achieve your goals more fun and exciting than chasing that shiny new thing?
Hmm, it's huge. Yeah. Thank you. So how would people reach you? We'll put that in the show note and into the comment below the videos, but how can people reach you, and what do you have to offer for people that have listened to this?
Well, so I wanna offer that idea test, so you guys can,
Mm,
I know we'll put the link down there so you guys can go
yeah.
out and get that idea test so you can at least start testing your ideas, what you have. As far as I know, I had provided an email, but I'd also like to provide, if that's okay with you, just, if you're having SOS, you think you have SOS, a chance to have an SOS call with me to just talk about what's working, what's not working, and what would you love to work better with your
Cool.
strengths and your shiny object to use them with purpose to achieve your goals.
So will you give me a calendar link, or do
I
you deal with
will.
send
I
me an
will
email?
give you a
Okay,
calendar
perfect.
link.
Wonderful. Wonderful. So book a call with Consuela and do the idea test and see where you stand and see how you can get started on you know quiet down a little bit that little monkey brain, that little shiny and object syndrome and
Squirrel.
wanting to do everything at once. That makes a
Exactly.
big difference. Well, thank you so much, Consuela. Stay there. I'll be right back. So that was another episode of It's All Go. Lucas here for a chat. Today we had Consuela Munoz and talking about shiny syndrome object. Yes, the squirrel syndrome. I want this. I want that. I want that. It makes me think of Ice Age, that little squirrels that running after the nut entirely, to all the old movies running after that nut, to exciting about getting it. Anyway, so thank you so much, Consuela, for being here. Thank you for those that have listened. It's always a pleasure to be here every Monday at noon Pacific time. I'll be here next week. Have a great day. Goodbye.